Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to another episode of In the Frame. Today I'm going to talk about 3 out of the 4 January releases from Indicator, and that's because I didn't pre-order the 4th title, which is a John Wayne film. I think this will be the 3rd John Wayne film that Indicator have released, and John Wayne is not my favourite actor in the world, so as I'm not Indicator complete anymore, I don't have to have the burden of ordering that one as well. But the 3 I want to talk about, one of them is absolutely brilliant and I would highly recommend. The other one is a lot of fun and really quite good, and the other one is a bit of a dud, I have to be honest, but certainly a curiosity. And I'll go through the 3 and then you can guess which one's which. So spine number 463 from 1959 is Edge of Eternity, directed by Don Siegel, or Donald Siegel as it says in the back of the box. 1959, 80 minutes long, in living colour, starring Cornel Wilde and a host of familiar faces. Then we have spine number 459, Sahara, with Humphrey Bogart, from 1943, directed by Zoltan Korda, 97 minutes long. This co-stars Lloyd Bridges, believe it or not, and Dan Dury, and again some more familiar faces. And then finally spine number 472, from 1935, The Lives of a Bengal Lancer, with Gary Cooper, Francois Tone, Richard Cromwell, Sir Guy Standing, directed by Henry Hathaway. So shout out your answers, which one's brilliant, which one's really good, and which one's the dud. We'll start with the dud. And this is The Lives of a Bengal Lancer, starring Gary Cooper. This was actually up for Best Film in 1935 at the Academy Awards. I don't think it won. As always with the limited edition Indicators, you get a booklet with a star and the director, and then a star, which is Gary Cooper. Also you get writings and images. Even though this is a dud, I probably will actually keep it because it does have it's got some interesting moments. It's just at 109 minutes there's large stretches that are actually quite dull. It's a basic story of Gary Cooper is the more experienced officer. A couple of officers come from Sandhurst. The kind of, not necessarily comic relief, but the kind of looser officer played by Tony, and the commanding officer's son, who he didn't send for but the son thinks he sent for. You can kind of tell what sort of film it is because there's 5 writers on it. It's based in a book by Sheldon Hall, who does a fantastic video chat about it for 27 minutes. It's based in a book, but as Sheldon Hall says, the only thing left from the book, from the screenplay, is the title. It's one of those Hollywood adaptations where they take the title and then absolutely nothing from the book. Apparently they optioned the book before it had even been published, because obviously exotic films were a thing at that period of time in the the 30s. So we've got a commentary from 2025 with C. Courtney Joyner, who always does good work, and filmmaker Steve Latshaw, that's from 2025. And then the really good and interesting Sheldon Hall piece, 27 minutes. And then the 54-minute radio version from 1939, starring Errol Flynn, no less. And you get a trailer and the booklet. Again, it's a bit of a plodder. It does have some interesting moments there. There's a fun scene involving a cobra, and some people die that you wouldn't actually think might die. So I mean, it's certainly a bit of a clunker, but it has its moments. And then going on to the really good one, it's Sahara with Bogey himself. This is Bogey in a tank called Lulabelle against the filthy Nazis in the desert, and it's a really kind of international affair. There's Bogey, Dandaria, another couple of Americans. There's some British officers, the Sarky one, and the one who thinks, recommends Bogey take over because he knows everything. So they pick up these British guys. They come across an Italian that they pick up, a Frenchman they pick up. They get a Nazi prisoner that they pick up. And it becomes a road movie as they try and avoid the filthy Nazis and get out of the desert. And then they get to a place with a well, and then it becomes a siege movie. Lots of wonderful dialogue. Bogey's fantastic in it. Bizarrely, it's based on one of the strangest things a film can be based on, especially for an American film, but apparently it's based on an incident in the Soviet photoplay The 13. It was adapted by James O'Hanlon. So if you've seen the Soviet photoplay The 13, it's a bit weird for Hollywood to take something from American and from Russia in 1943, but there you go. It's a wonderful film. Again, you don't have to engage your brain too much with this one. There's Bogey smoking, and there's Zoltan Korda smoking. It's almost as if smoking was a thing back then. I don't know. And there's a picture of a tank. So this one's just a lot of fun, kind of Sunday afternoon tank film. But again, it does have some wonderful moments. It's actually quite dark in places. Again, this is a commentary from 2025 by C. Courtney Joyner. It's got a 13-minute piece by Eshin Koshbacht, creator, filmmaker and editor of The Lady with the Torch, Columbia Pictures, 1929 to 59. And then we have two fascinating little documentaries. Building a Tank from 1942, which is 20 minutes, documentary short on the work of the Detroit Tank Arsenal and the manufacture and testing of the M3 Lee tank, which prominently features in the film. And The Siege of Tobruk from 1942, which is 17 minutes, documentary short produced by the UK Film Army Unit detailing the World War II military campaign in the North African port of Tobruk during 1941, which preceded the events portrayed in the film. Again, you get a trailer and an image gallery. Obviously it's to show the Allies working together for the singular purpose of beating the filthy Nazis. It's a lot of fun, really enjoyable. I'd probably recommend picking it up in the sale, but certainly the best film out of the trio, and one that I would recommend. But again, you could probably wait for a sale. But if you can't wait for a sale, I would certainly pick it up. It's worth picking up right now, right this second. And it's Edge of Eternity by Don Siegel. Again, Don Siegel, one of those directors that was just so efficient. He's like the American Bresson, as far as being so economical, but still his films are dynamic. It's only 80 minutes long, but it seems longer, but not in a bad way. Beautifully shot, beautiful colour, because it's set in the Grand Canyon, which is really a co-star of the film, and it's a little cracker. It opens with a man, it's Don Siegel himself, opens with a man looking over the Grand Canyon, and then a second man, you always have the best hats, a second man comes out of from behind some rocks, and tries to use the man's car to knock him into the Grand Canyon. A scuffle ensues. Look at that. A scuffle ensues, and somebody goes over. And then we get Cornel Wilde, who is a sheriff's deputy in the area, who has a past, which we learn about, of course. So he's in this kind of dead, dying gold mine town, and he comes across the kind of guy who looks after the fences and stuff for the gold company, the mining company, who claims he saw a guy staggering about, but he cries wolf quite a lot. And there's a beautiful woman, Victoria Shaw, driving fast in a car that goes by them, so Cornel Wilde decides to chase her instead and give her a ticket, that is. And then of course it turns out that the other guy from the cliff is found hanging with his hands behind his back. Now obviously Cornel Wilde takes this quite personally. I mean, the sheriff is fairly easy on him, but obviously if he hadn't been chasing a beautiful woman in a car speeding, he might have, actually the guy might be alive. And that kind of springboards the investigation, which takes twists and turns. It's a neat little story, but again it's about this dying town. Jack Elam co-stars, and he might not actually be a baddie. It's quite an adjustment when you watch the film. It's like when Jack Elam might be playing like a normal person. But again, the Grand Canyon is a thing. Cornel Wilde doesn't like heights. I mean, who does really? And the little car that the mining company used to go from one side of the canyon to the other does come into play in a stunning finale. I mean, obviously in the close-ups in the finale is not filmed dangling over the Grand Canyon, but there's some shots that seem to be some people dangling over the Grand Canyon. I mean, it's quite breathtaking. It is a 12 for a film from 1959. It's just so good. So you've got the father who runs the mining company. Victoria Shaw plays his daughter. You've got the troubled alcoholic son. You've got the barman who is Cornel Wilde's high school friend. But there's a real sense of this as almost a ghost town. It's just a wonderful little film. But again, Don Siegel, 80 minutes, it's dynamic, it's thrilling, it is spectacular. You should watch it on as big a screen as possible, because the vistas of the Grand Canyon are quite impressive. Again, brutal in places, but Siegel just knows how to push those buttons to make a thrilling little crime picture. Also Cornel Wilde, famous actor, but then got into directing and producing and writing. But he's really good in this. He's got the charm, but you can also tell he's got a difficult past that haunts him. Victoria Shaw, I'm not really familiar with, but she's spunky in the film. There's actually a piece about her because she is Australian originally, like quite a lot of Hollywood actors that turn out to be Australian. This has a commentary from 2025 by Jason A. Ney, Into the Canyons, which is a wonderful 17-minute piece by writer and academic Jose Arreo, who discusses Edge of Eternity in the context of Don Siegel's career. It's a really good piece on Don Siegel. And then you've got Closer to the Edge, which is a half-hour in-depth analysis of the film by Arreo, which is fantastic. And then we've got an Australian Cinderella from 2025, which is a 17-minute piece by Stephen Morgan on the life and career of Australian actor and Columbia contract player Victoria Shaw. And again, the booklet. But this is the one I would highly recommend, especially if you're a Don Siegel fan. Another one of his many films that I wasn't aware of. But this is an absolute cracker. And also if you're a fan of the Grand Canyon, it's one of the great Grand Canyon films. And if you're a Jack Elam fan, it's a film where he might actually be a normal person. Unbelievable. So thanks so much for watching. Certainly a mixed bag, and obviously I don't have the John Wayne title, and I never will. Yeah, probably all three you could wait until they go and get to the sale. I'm sure they'll probably be on sale by the time Indicator do their annual sale at the end of this year. But certainly if you can't wait, if you want to see Don Siegel brilliance, I would highly recommend picking up Edge of Eternity right this second. So thanks so much for watching. Please let me know if you've seen Edge of Eternity, Bogey with a Tank in Sahara, or Gary Cooper wearing a turban in The Lives of Bengal Lancer, and what you think of them. And hopefully you'll join me again for more episodes of In the Frame. This is Soldier Ronan from Soldier Ronan Films, saying farewell.